bring up a board.
Let's get to the jungle rankings. We're going to start with yours.
Because they're better.
Because they're better, sure.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell the people, the chat, your thoughts here.
Now, Mike Young, I got him at the top. I think this TSM roster is going to be pretty insane. Yeah, he's going to have a lot of pressure on him, but he's going to have a lot of help from the most insane lane-focused team in the league. So I think he's going to thrive there. Got him at the top. Sven Skaren, number 2 there. Sven Skaren, believe it or not, I don't think he's going to fall off the face of the earth. He's going to look like a different jungler on C9 with Jensen in that mid lane, and I think you see the Sven Skaren of old go through there. LirA, I like Clutch Gaming. I think their ceiling is they could win that 3rd place in the NA LCS over teams like CLG and Liquid. So I think LirA, working with a guy like Febivin, again, it's all about the jungle mid lane matchup. LirA's going to be pretty solid. Reignover on a much better roster. Much better roster with CLG than he was on Liquid. Again, it's a lot of seeing these former iterations of these junglers where they were before. I think Xmithy takes a step back. I'm not fully on that Team Liquid hype train yet. I'm not sure if that team is going to instantly be super solid going forward. Then, you know, closing it out, we got Acadian. Listen, I got to say, the junglers, there's no bad junglers, really.
This is important to state.
I got Acadian last, but that doesn't mean Acadian sucks. What that means, someone's got to be 10th. I don't think that Acadian is that bad a jungler, but I think jungling in general has some of the best diversity of talent in the league this year. So someone's got to be 10th. I don't think Acadian's bad at all.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing with jungling too is it relies so much on what's around you. You can't just be a star jungler on your own, even though LirA in 2017 spring, to a certain extent, did that on a 10th place team. He was still the best jungler that split. But yeah, just because we put you 10th on a list, especially jungle, doesn't mean you're bad.
The competition's way higher.
Yes.
This split, maybe in past seasons, if you're the 10th place jungler, it is just because you're not good, because there's only 5 good junglers. Yeah. But now there's 10 pretty solid junglers that are coming into the LCS this split.
This isn't a Freaks grading system where we give you Ds and Ss.
No.
And Bs, even though you're R and S. So we won't get into Freaks rankings from last season, but again, these are just our 1 to 10 lists.
Someone's got to be 10.
Someone's got to be 10, and Eric has Acadian.
Yep. And
if we get to mine, unfortunately I do too. I also have Acadian 10th, but I've got LirA at number 1.
Number 1?
Number 1, he's going to go back to his former glory. And some people might say that that's crazy, but
I'm saying,
I mean,
that's crazy.
You had him 3rd. It's not that insane. I really like what he can do now on clutch with a mid laner like Febivin who can open up the map for him. When you look back at what he did in his first split with Envy, it was basically just him dominating the map, being super aggressive and getting leads by himself. And you kind of saw in summer that teams adjusted to that. And they were like, okay, all we have to do is kind of slow down LirA, and then we can control the game. We'll give up that disadvantage in bot lane. I mean, Apollo and Hako in the CLG series specifically in that quarterfinal matchup, man, Sneaky and Afro, or Stixxay and Afro were getting beat up pretty badly. But still, CLG was just focusing on getting LirA on the back foot and getting Omar God those leads. So I think now that they have Febivin in the mid lane and better solo laners, it'll really free up LirA to do his thing again.
And we both had contracts pretty low for a guy who we thought was probably best jungler of the split last year. And now he's all the way down to the bottom half there, and a lot of that's to do with the team.
Yeah, that's not so much a contracts problem. That's more of a Golden Guardians problem. Obviously, I don't think he can be as aggressive as he was allowed to be on Cloud9 because Impact was one of the best 1v1 top laners, and then Jensen is not someone who falls behind on his own in that mid lane. So now you have Hai, who's going to be behind in CS more than likely.
Yep.
LoRaLo might need some help in the top lane. You can't just have contracts wandering into the enemy jungle and being on these hyper carries.
You might have to. That might be their win condition in a lot of these games.
But I also think that you're going to fall behind in that respect. If you just kind of put all the onus on him to get things done, it might not go so well. One thing that you and I differed on quite a bit between the two boards was Meteos. Yep. You had him 10th, and I had him...
Whoa.
9th, sorry. 9th. And I had him 6th.
That's a pretty big difference. You believe in Meteos, huh? He was pretty good on P1.
He was.
He was pretty good.
With like no practice with the team.
He's a very positive guy. He's not going to get tilted or anything like that. I mean, you have kind of seen some issues just kind of with synergizing with some other guys on C9 of all things, which was kind of weird when Jensen came on. It seemed like it was a kind of weird dynamic there. Then he kind of came back for a bit. But I feel like the personalities are going to be very interesting on 100 Thieves with a couple of super positive guys like Meteos and Afromu working with a guy like Ryu in the mid lane who just is, he's going to do his thing. He's going to Ryu face. He's going to be somewhat consistent on there. But I'm not convinced that he's going to have a super solid split. You're more convinced.
Yeah, it was something that Probably kind of said in his interview with Travis, where he said that, you know, the team was kind of built around positivity. And, you know, Ryu was a guy who, on Phoenix 1, if the team was getting down and upset, then he would also kind of match that emotion. So you had to build a team that was positive and that can hold up to tough times. And I mean, Afromu is a building block to that, obviously. He's one of the more positive guys around. And even in deficits, you've seen it with CLG. He was one of the shot callers who can pull you back out of an early struggling game. And then you add in Meteos, who's someone who, similar. I mean, he doesn't really tilt. He's just someone who laughs it off. You've seen him on Cloud in the past, joking around with Sneaky when they're losing a game pretty badly. They still have a good time and they still try to fight back into it. So now you have this positive core of 100 Thieves, and I just think it's pretty good. And I want to see what Meteos can do with a full offseason to prep new champs, a full offseason to get chemistry with Ryu, with Afromu, and I think it'll come together pretty well. I'm not saying it's a 2013 summer Meteos, but I think he'll be pretty good.
Yeah, and he's a guy whose champion pool has kind of been questioned going back the last couple of splits. So,
Yeah.
We'll see if he's developed that, diversified it a bit, but we'll see. I'm not super convinced about him. But again, it's a pretty tough competition pool of junglers this year, so they're all good. There's no bad junglers, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. Obviously, Ana's an unproven guy.
Right, that's the guy we didn't talk about. But we're both somewhat believing in the hype in that guy, and I think he's going to have a lot of opportunity on FlyQuest for them to kind of play through him and kind of set the pace for that team, which could maybe be a bad thing, and he could end up being 10th on this list by the end of the spring split. But we'll see.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more esports content.